Vivek, since I had a bit of a technology issue when you were making your comment, I do want to come back to you and I have a couple of questions for you. One is flowing from this comment that Romil made about change of business model. You know, I just am wondering that is the relevance of core of one's business still relevant? Is it still intact? Is it time for us to re-examine the so-called core of business? Will it possibly change given all that we are going through? Is there an opportunity or is that going to be a greater risk? So I'd like a comment on that. And if you could then connect with, especially in businesses like yours, which might be wanting to look at digital transformation at scale and therefore also building or rebuilding an internal capability with that. How do you think digital interventions are going to work in this, whatever is going to be the new core of business of companies like yours?
I think, Prabir, great questions. My personal belief is that the idea of a core actually becomes even more important, at times like this. Because ultimately, what is a core? The core is having a clear understanding of what drives value for a business and how does the business enable itself to actually serve its customers or consumers in ways others can't. So unless you really have a clear sense of what's distinctive about you, whether it's your business model, your principles, your values, your strategy, how else will you win in the marketplace? So at times like this, when there is so much confusion, there's so much ambiguity, the clarity and focus around knowing how you will drive value, how will you adapt, and what will you do differently to serve your consumers and your customers actually becomes more important. And this is one area where I find companies actually struggling the most. Because once you figure out what your core is, then you can decide, are there things perhaps that I should not be doing? So are there ways to slim down the core? Yeah. Are there new things that I need to start doing, right? Which might need to perhaps a new core or new capabilities around the core. So to me, at this stage, it's very important for people and companies to figure out what is truly strategic, what is non-strategic. For things that are non-strategic, advantage, do you partner with some other people? Do you try and sell those assets? The second is what's productive, what's non-productive. Because every company of our size or other companies, there's a fair amount of unproductive work that goes on as well. Can you shed the unproductive part? And so I think the heart of this is to figure out what drives competitive advantage. I think once you've done that, then it's very important to figure out what your operating model needs to be, what your business model needs to be. While we're doing it, it's very important to not throw the baby out of the bathwater. I think I fully agree that cash needs to be the entire royal coat. But at the same time, I see a lot of companies running immediately to cut costs or let people go off. We've heard some horrible examples where 3,500 people were let go through a 3-minute video online. Is that what you want to be remembered as? Part of, I think, our job as leaders is to figure out how will we be remembered at after a few years. This is a once-in-a-lifetime crisis. We have to think about legacy building. We have to think about, future generations as well. And I think at times like this, values become very important. Values are so easy to live up to when things are going well. The true test of values comes in when things are not going well. So I think as we look at the core, a huge amount of the core rejuvenation actually is all about trying to figure out what your principles are and what your values are and what your value creation thesis needs to be. As part of the core, I think, transformation, we are now in the midst of a very exciting digital workshop that the entire world is going through. So I think digital will end up touching every single part of the enterprise. It is going to be about the customer. It is going to be about the supply chain. It is going to also be about the core in terms of some of our enabling functions. What I see is many companies looking at digital in a very siloed manner. This is a great time to be able to think about digital in a more integrated manner. I remember reading a cartoon which basically said, who drives the digital strategy? Is it the CEO? Is it the CIO? Or is it COVID? Right? Sure. And the honest answer is it's COVID. For most of us, actually, COVID has given us a big kick in our pants on both the potential and the urgency to actually now think about digital in a much more integrated manner. And I'm sure people like Romal, who are experts at this, will be able to share far more deeper perspectives on how to think about a digital transformation.
Brilliant.